what I did, I was trying the technique one morning when I had time to sleep in. And as I was doing the technique, I felt myself become heavier. And then I felt those vibrations coming through my whole body. And then I just sort of floated up out of my body to stand on the end of my bed.
Anyway, on this occasion, I directed my attention to concentrating on the heart. And before I knew it, I just floated all the way out of my body. And I was there floating at the end of the bed in the astral counterpart of my bedroom. And it was just such an amazing feeling. It was like someone pulled me out. I just literally was lying flat and then just came straight out like that. It was quite awesome. You know, it's something that changes your life forever.
At some time during a practice, I must have fallen asleep, and at that point I remember feeling myself being pulled out of my body backwards, almost like I was doing very slow motion somersaults down to the floor. So I found myself laying on the floor, and I slowly stood up, and I found myself in that room, and I saw my body on the bed.
As I was doing it, I felt my whole body just start to vibrate, just feel really tingly. And as I was doing it, thoughts kept taking me away from the practice that I was trying to do, and I had to keep bringing my mind back to what I was doing. And each time I did, I felt the vibrations more and more intensely, and my head started to feel really, really incredibly heavy. And then after a few minutes, my body felt simultaneously really heavy and really light at the same time. And then all of a sudden, I just found myself almost leaping out of my body into my room.
So I was sleeping, or I was starting to fall back asleep, and I started feeling just different sensations. Like I started to feel kind of light and floaty, but kind of heavy at the same time. And then I kind of floated out of my body, and I was floating in my room and floating above my body, and I saw my physical body sleeping, and I got excited, and I thought to myself, oh wow, I did it, I astral projected. But then I went back to my body and I woke up right away. But, you know, it was a short experience, but nonetheless, it was my first, and it was really exciting to me, because, I got to see that it really existed.
And I was, going back and forth, kind of fighting with the mind. The mind would just take me away for a few moments, and I'd come back to the visualization, and I'd drift off again and come back. And I kept doing this until at one point, I just found myself out of my body, and I knew I was in the astral at that point. I'm here finally. So all right, I remembered, I need to go to the sun. So I remember, before then I always jumped and flew to places. So I tried to do it this time, except, there was a ceiling above me, of course. And I'd never had that obstacle for some reason before. And so I went up and I flew up to the ceiling, and I just stopped there. And okay, what do I do? And I remember just seeing the ceiling above me and just seeing the real fine details of the plaster and things like that, and just feeling it and just, wow, this is interesting. I've never, had such a vantage point of the ceiling. And so I did that for a little bit, and then I figured out, okay, I need to stop messing around and get to the sun.
And I did a mantra, and very, very quickly, I must have fallen asleep, but I didn't realize it. And I was just repeating the mantra, and all of a sudden I saw this something pass in front of me, and I was just like, what was that? And I'm like, well, never mind, we say some weird stuff can happen, so let's continue it. And I was really I don't know, it felt really nice. It felt very floaty, but I didn't realize. And then I was just keep concentrating and just repeating the mantra. So I was doing it like maybe 2 or 3 more times. And then I just realized that something passed, and it was my arm. So my arm was just flying like in front of me. And I was just like, no, it's not possible. My arm is on my leg. It's laying on my leg. I just remember the way I fell asleep was this. And so I was just like, oh, maybe I'm outside of my body. So I would just really like just very gently roll out of bed, and I realized that I was actually outside of my body, that I was, that I was there and I could float.
I did actually during the day, I did 3 concentration practices. One was on a pencil, I believe, and 2 of them was on a cup, and it was about 10 minutes long. So it's just a sit-down practice. Then I would do a lay-down practice later on in the afternoon, and it was the Ehipto mantra. And for some reason that day, it was a really good practice. So when I did go to sleep, I kept doing the Ehipto mantra, and for some odd reason, I actually projected 4 or 5 times that night. I don't know why. Could have been probably from all those practices. But anytime I came back to the body or I woke up, I kept doing that mantra. And it was so instilled in my mind to do that mantra anytime I woke up that I kept popping out, which was really cool.
And I found myself in a dream, actually having an argument with someone. I said, I know how this event is going to turn out. You're wrong, because the event has already happened, and this is the astral right now. And I said it almost without even realizing what I was saying, but when I did say it, all of a sudden it came to me that I was in a dream, that it was in fact the astral. And at that moment, everything, the whole dream just sort of popped like a bubble and just disappeared. And in the dream I'd actually been standing in a sort of very large washroom at the time. And when the dream went away, I still found myself in a washroom, but it was actually my own washroom, the washroom that was in my house, where I was just standing with the lights off. It was dark, it was nighttime, just as would have been if I'd gotten up and gone to the washroom in the middle of the night in the physical world. But at the same time, it was very, very different, and I could feel that right away. And I just looked at myself in the mirror, and I saw my jaw drop open, just sort of in kind of shock and wonder where I was.
I asked for help to go somewhere, and I just lifted up into the air, and I was flying very rapidly towards the coast, flying over the rooftops, and very soon I found myself over water. And I was flying over the water for, and it was amazing. The sun was out, the sea, it was shining. The water was just beautiful, and I was just flying above it at the height of the clouds. And I was just looking down thinking, this is amazing. It's so clear. I mean, to fly is such an amazing thing. I'd always dreamed of flying as a kid, and there I was flying.